I'm telling you, Nathan, it is the one time in my life. It is the only time in my life where I completely ignore my values and like I said, Taoism and pacifism. I completely ignore it. I'm a different person, and I love it.
He
You're a
shows his
menace.
horns.
I love it.
Give them bread and circuses and they will never revolt.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You're listening to the Art and War podcast with your hosts, Mitch and Nathan. Mitch is a former airborne infantry squad leader who now spends most of his time coaching soccer. Nathan is a professional illustrator and an avid shooter with a couple of years of Canadian military experience. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Ana the banana, Ana the Bulgarian. How are you doing today?
I'm grand. How are you guys?
I'm doing great.
I think we're doing pretty good. I'm going to interrupt Mitch here and answer for him because I assume he's doing good anyway. I don't know.
No, I'm doing great. Monday's my last day in the Army. I'm retiring, so things are going really well there.
By the time your people listen to this episode, you will be a free man.
Yeah, by the time this episode is out, yep, I will be retired, collecting a pension.
Moved.
So
gonna live off the taxpayer dime for a little while, eh?
Hey, if you're paying taxes, for starters, you don't have a choice. Get fucked, but you will be paying me for the rest of my life. So thank you very much, and thank you for listening. And by the way, did I mention we have a Patreon where you can give us even more money?
Great Patreon. You get to see some very sus-looking comics, is all I can say.
Very sus.
And other interesting content.
Well, today we're joined with Ana, or Victim Henry. You've been on the show before. You also just got back from Bulgaria visiting family. What's going on in Bulgaria, and how is the war in Ukraine affecting Bulgaria, and is your family doing all right?
Well, yeah, a lot has been happening. COVID has been affecting Bulgaria a lot, and also the war. My family is okay; they're all right, but there's been like a massive inflation going on right now, and it is, unlike in the States, with us, it's actually due to the, Russian influence and stuff like that. Pretty much, what's been going on? Prices have been sky high, and there's been a lot of poverty and stuff like that. My dad was telling me recently that there was this like boom craze about oil, like cooking oil, actually running out. So pretty much there was like a shortage of cooking oil. So there was this craze. Everyone was going on and trying to buy this bulk of oil. And my mom and dad were like, okay, let's see. Maybe we can buy some for ourselves if it's actually running out. And when they went there were actually literal fights in the supermarkets over fucking cooking oil. It's just ridiculous. It's so stupid. Politically wise, though, it's been affecting us quite badly, because there's a lot of things going on with, how many countries now are sending weapons and stuff like that and aid to Ukraine. So
yeah, we know absolutely where all those weapons and aid are
going. Oh yeah, today's news, isn't it? 33 billion. Interesting. I saw that. Yeah, but with us, it's been quite difficult because you have our country that is obviously, ex-Soviet stuff going on in our country, and you have the political party that's running our country, which is, in short, it's literally called Bulgarian Socialist Party. They didn't even bother changing the name. So you have them with the still somewhat Russian influence, and you have the other party, which is more towards the Western democratic stuff. And on one side, you have NATO telling Bulgaria, send weapons, send aid. Then on the other side, you have Moscow saying, if you send weapons and send aid, we're gonna be in trouble. And it's just been very confusing and very stressful, because we had also the American Secretary of Defense, I think it was. He came last month, I think, or the month before. He came to visit and to negotiate with our president to talk about sending our, I think it was a type of missiles to send them to Ukraine, and he was pressing quite hard on it. He had like a 2-day visit, and he was like, "You guys need to send it. You are our allies." He brought like 900 people to train on our grounds, like on a brand new training ground in Bulgaria. And I'm pretty sure it's a training ground by the border, because there's like it's situated in a small village, but we have like 3 villages with the exact same name. So me and my parents were trying to pinpoint which one it was, but we couldn't really. So that, and obviously NATO was like, "Oh yeah, you guys definitely should do that." But then, as I said, Moscow is like, "If you do this, we're gonna break our good, negotiations and stuff, and you're gonna be targeted as well." So our president is like, "Nope, I'm not sending any weapons. I'm not doing anything. We're gonna be neutral. We need to keep these missiles. I mean, by sending weapons, I mean sending the missiles. Other weapons we still supply, as far as I know, and other type of aid. But for the missiles, he said he wants to keep them because we also have a nuclear power plant in Bulgaria. So he was like, "Oh, we need to defend it in case something happens to us." And recently, Moscow has discovered that our brilliant politicians have been, going under the radar and sending over weapons through third-party countries, one of which is Poland. And that led to 2 days ago, Russia cutting off, I think, oil and gas, I'm not sure, to both our countries. Pretty much saying, screw you lot. This is our opinion of you and for what you've been doing behind our backs, pretty much.
So the U.S. Secretary of Defense came over with troops and they were training in Bulgaria?
Yeah, they're situated in Bulgaria, as far as I know. We've had troops in Bulgaria before, as far as I understand, but now it's like it's a brand new base. Even our troops haven't trained there before, so together ours and yours technically are training together there. It's I don't know really, honestly, what the intention is. Maybe it's clear to you guys what the intention is, but in my eyes is just stirring the fire even more by doing these types of stuff, because when you come and you put your troops and you demand us to send weapons and do stuff like that, not just us, because he went to, I think it was Czech Republic, or I'm gonna lie to you, he came from another place for the same visit for the same reason, and another Eastern European country beforehand, like 2 days beforehand. And when you come from the West, from the States specifically, with this type of interest, you're just poking the bear even more. That's in my opinion, that's the case, and that's I don't know. It's been very confusing for everyone. The opinions have been split a lot. Specifically when it comes down to the regular people back home, because it's full of people who are very devoted to supporting Russia, which it's ridiculous. I don't know. In my eyes, it's ridiculous. It's this Russophilia type of behavior, and the majority of the opinions online were also, "Oh, Russians have been our brothers for many years, so we, must be on their side. There's nothing wrong going on. There's definitely no genocide. There's definitely no this, that, the other, And then you have, on the other hand, surprisingly, it's less people supporting Ukraine than Russia back home, which is it's a bit distressing, honestly.
Yeah, and I was one of those troops that was stationed in Ukraine and the Baltic states throughout my career. I mean, years ago, back when it was like a skirmish on the border of Ukraine and Russia type deal. And the training that we were doing was some of the most wild training I can imagine happening. And I almost feel like, I don't know, I would have to look into it more. But if they're doing the type of training in Bulgaria that I was doing in Ukraine and Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania a couple of years ago, that is some aggressive ass shit that Russia is seeing. And I think, like you said, it's kind of just there to stir the pot. Like, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to come do something and justify us, going to war with you? To give you some insight into what that training looked like. Like in Ukraine, we did this joint operation exercise where there was a training ground, but also the villages. Like we were just allowed to go into these villages where people were living. And we had, vehicles, we had vehicle on vehicle action, obviously training, of course, but, there would be bridges and the OCs would be like, yeah, Ukrainian claims that they blew up this bridges to give you terrain denial. And, it was very intimate with the people who probably had no fucking idea what was going on. We ended up falling asleep and setting up a patrol base in this old Ukrainian woman's yard. And she came out in the morning and she was like she was going ballistic. She's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are all these American troops in a patrol base in my fucking yard? And then we had a translator with us, or a terp, and they explained like, oh, this is a training exercise. They're just here. They're not actually doing anything. Like, it's fine. And she was really cool about it. She made us, I've never seen an actual cauldron in my life except for this moment. Like it literally looked like a witch's cauldron. She made us like super stew. It was delicious. But yeah, like it is a very intimate thing with the people of those countries that we train in when we're over there. And I imagine if that's something similar that's going on in Bulgaria right now, like Russia has to be seeing this stuff happening and being like, what the fuck? Like, and I can only imagine how that looks for the Bulgarian government. And it's like, well, what do we do? You're in between two of the world's superpowers who are fighting like a proxy war. It's
and on
strange.
one hand we're in NATO and in the EU. On the other hand, I don't even know why there's still such incredibly strong influence from Russia on our country. Like I don't understand it, because I'm not very much into politics really. As much as I talk about it, I don't really fully understand the entire picture of everything. But it's like, it's still beyond me how we have been part of NATO and the EU for such an incredibly long time, and you'd think we'd integrate more into the, Central to Western Europe type of mentality, but no, it's just like it's been so long and the influence has been so strong that you just can't turn it. And the fact that it's majority of older people in our country now, there's barely any young people, and the ones that are there are just, I don't know, they've started becoming very very liberal, like Western type of liberal. So everything's just going crazy, and that on the other hand goes down the road to, we can't have more births. We're suffering from that. There's more death than birth, and there's more immigration than people staying and actually making the country going forward. Because it's like, when you have whatever is going on and the poverty, obviously everyone's going to immigrate and try and find better money, better payment. So that's understandable. But now when you have, on the other hand, the Western influence with the liberalism and the new type of, mentality, it's new for us. It hasn't been new in the West, but for our type of, situation is quite new. So when you have it, and you know how the current liberal movement is a lot about, oh, me, it's concentrated about me, my situation, I'm the important one, look at me, the look at me generation, or whatever you call it. And the whole idea of tradition and the idea of traditional family has been, completely destroyed at this point in the West. So now with us, it's starting to happen as well, but we can't afford that to happen in our country, because we're barely like 7-8 million. We're like 7 million at this point. We barely fit in the population of London, like our entire country fits in the population of London itself. So when you have that type of mentality and that destruction of the traditional family and that entire anti-family, anti-giving birth, traditional gender roles, whatever you want to call it. It's ridiculous. What's typically normal, when it's turned abnormal, what happens? A country dies out. So I'm telling you, in the next 100 years, I don't see anything positive to happen to my country because of that.
I don't really
Honestly.
see anything positive happening in a lot of the world, I hate to say. Kind of tangentially related with what Mitch is saying. I don't know, it's kind of funny and cute that, old lady comes outside and she sees a bunch of American soldiers in a yard. But I think that's kind of fucked up a little bit. Don't you guys have an amendment about that? The Third Amendment that stops soldiers from quartering without your explicit consent during peacetime?
Yeah, but that's in America. I mean, who the fuck?
I know. But that they recognized, hundreds of years ago, that's pretty fucked up. And, it seems kind of taken for granted there. Just, hey, yeah, we're doing a military exercise on your property. Fuck you, I guess. At least she was cool about it.
Yeah, she was
Well,
I
very.
would have come out with a fucking broom.
They're technically not doing anything to harm the civilians anyways. I mean, it's
I know,
distressing.
but imagine you just wake up, you go into your backyard in your underwear, you, I don't know, do whatever you're doing in your backyard, taking a piss, I guess. And you
No,
look
you
up and
don't
there's just a
pee in
bunch
your
of dudes in
backyard,
multicam. Yeah, I don't piss in my backyard. Maybe I'll start. If there's any soldiers back there, I'm going to be pretty pissed.
Well, she
But,
was.
Yeah, no.
She was very upset.
Yeah, I can't blame her.
You want to know
Wouldn't you be?
one of the coolest moments that ever happened to me in the military? We were moving through some hills in Ukraine, and it was in this village where people were living, and this Ukrainian village was throwing a bonfire and a party. I don't know what it was. And there were very, very drunk Ukrainians. And we were doing some, I think we were trying to set up an ambush, I think at the time. And we were doing our leader's recon. And I was just a private, but I was going along. And we were stealthily moving through this field, 10 meters away from these Ukrainians, just civilians just throwing a bonfire, getting drunk, having a party. And it was a scene from the movie where a guy goes out to piss, and you're right next to him. And I mean, we didn't do anything. It was a training exercise, but we were treating it like it was real. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is the coolest shit that I'm ever gonna fucking do in the army. This is so fucking cool. Well, the whole operation, the whole training event, it was so cool. Literally stealthily moving through this Ukrainian village while they're throwing a bonfire, drinking. I felt like I was in a fucking movie.
Very video game style.
Yeah, it was insane. I remember thinking, I'm because I had played Modern Warfare, and I remember that mission all ghillied up, and we weren't in ghillie suits. We weren't even fucking we weren't a sniper team or anything like that. But I'm man, we're sneaking through fucking Ukraine, the villages of Ukraine right now. And they don't know that we're fucking here performing a training exercise. This is the coolest shit that I'm ever going to fucking do. But it's very invasive. Like I said, I don't know if somebody came to these villages beforehand and was hey, by the way, the Americans and all these other militaries are going to be doing a force on force training exercise. And this village is subject to that. But it was, looking back on it, it was so real. It was absolutely surreal. And to think that stuff could still be going on in places like Bulgaria, where there is an active war with one of the Baltic states, Ukraine and Russia, that makes it even more insane to me. I mean, I don't know if they're doing the same type of shit that I was when I was there in terms of training. Maybe they're still restricted to a base. I don't know. But
they have a base as far as I know. I'm not too sure that if they're in villages and stuff. I don't know much about it. All I've read is articles, really.
Yeah, this is where we need our producer BR to be our fucking Jamie and to look this up while we're trying to figure it out. But no, that kind of stuff is wild. And I don't know why it doesn't get talked about, because in all honesty, some of the best training I've ever gotten ever in my life was in the Baltic states, because it was so unrestrictive. We were in villages where people lived and were just going about their lives. You can't do that here in the US. Picture a bunch of troops because we jumped into Ukraine too. Picture a bunch of troops jumping into Fayetteville and they're like taking the city and they're moving through the city doing force on force, and like the citizens just have to go about their day. Like that would be insane. That would be
Everyone would
insane.
be complaining about it, wouldn't they?
I don't think they'd be just complaining. I think some people would think like there's a fucking war going on. And it's weird because the Baltic states, which has notoriously been like Europe's fucking battleground, they have to like, I would love to go and talk with somebody from one of those villages that we trained in, being like, and just asking the question like, hey, did you know like this was going on? Like, what did you think when you see paratroopers in American uniforms landing like in your fields? Like that
Oh man.
has to be wild.
That's funny you say that. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure if I told that story in the last podcast or not, but we had that happen in Bulgaria a few years ago. Some what you call them, French commandos or whatever they are, paratroopers, whatever you want to call them. They deployed on accident, or they got the wrong coordinates in a Bulgarian village in the field, and the villagers saw them and beat the crap out of them. They just saw a bunch of, special operatives, and then they just got their sticks and stones and pitchforks and beat the crap out of them because they didn't know who it is. You're on our territory. What the hell are you doing? Are you attacking us? What's happening? So, the French learned their lesson the hard way back in my country. But, yeah, these things happen.
Hey, do you guys like war belts? Well, let me tell you about a super high military grade Army spec war belt from one of our most near and dear sponsors, Advanced Warfighter Solutions. Not only are they super high military grade and quality, they are also civilian grade and quality, and actually really fucking cool belts. I highly recommend that you get one. I've been using mine for years, even long before AWS has been a sponsor of this podcast. So if you use code ARTandWar10, you could save some, I think it's $10 off of AWS SMU warfighting belt. We don't get any kickback from that. You just save money, and they're an awesome company that also contributed to Nathan's iPad fund because he needed a new iPad. So good for them. They're really cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, AWS.
Hey, this is Mitchell with Seaburn Art. Did you know that we have a Patreon? We do have a Patreon, and there's a ton of cool things there. Super cool things, and Nathan's going to tell you about them.
Hey guys, Nathan here from the Art and War podcast, here to tell you about Patreon. There's a 24-hour Korean massage parlor several blocks from my house, and I go there for happy endings. It gets pretty expensive, and I need you to donate me money so I can continue to serve my dark addiction.
Not only can you help Nathan get hand jobs from Koreans, you can also help us continue to improve the quality of content that we do. You get merch now after a couple months of being a Patreon subscriber, which is cool. We also have stickers, and we also have high-res downloadable targets that you can download, send to Staples, and get weird looks when you print them out to bring them to your range and shoot. Also, all of our guides are downloadable, high res, so if you want to print them out and make a cool little book, yeah, you can go for that too.
You can find our Patreon via the link in this episode's description or in the Seaburn Art page's bio on Instagram. Now let's get back to the show.
Was it Bulgaria where the US, my old unit, the 173rd, I'm pretty sure, where they got out of the training area and they ended up going into like an olive oil factory? And was that in Bulgaria?
I'm not too sure what happened.
So I don't know if this was in Bulgaria or not, but the 173rd, I believe it was a 173rd too. Either way, we'll just say a U.S. Army unit was conducting training somewhere in Eastern Europe, and they, without knowing it, left the training area and started to take an olive oil factory as an objective, like. And there's cameras of like these.
I heard about that.
Yeah, there's cameras of like these workers just in there, right? They're just walking around, and you just see these troops stacking up on the door. Like it was.
I remember that. Was that in Bulgaria? I think it was. I'm not too sure, but I know of that. I've seen that. Oh my god.
I don't know. Was it Bulgaria or not? Olive oil factory.
Oh, yes, it was.
That was in Bulgaria. Yeah, that was in Bulgaria. Yeah.
Paratroopers raid Bulgarian olive oil factory by mistake.
Yep. Like, that's what I'm saying, though, when the
I
training is
remember
intimate.
that.
Like, it's very intimate, because it's not like here in the US where we have hundreds and thousands of acres of training area and mock villages. Over there, like, the villages and the areas where you train. Like, even in Italy, we did a fucking jump. It was a joint training exercise with the Italians, and we just walked alongside the fucking highway in Italy. And then at night we walked through fucking villages. We had obviously blank firing adapters on, but there was this one point where like dogs would get loose, and like it was a whole fucking thing. This Italian farmer came out with a hunting rifle and was like, "What the fuck's going on? Why are American paratroopers like just walking through Italy right now?" And it, like, you don't have I mean, there are designated training areas in Europe, but it's not like here in the US. Like, the villages, the towns, the cities, that is where you train, and the people just have to fucking deal with it. It's
Yeah, but to be honest with you, it's more dangerous for you guys than it is for the villagers in this case, because you technically can't shoot them, but they can. They can.
we don't have ammo when we're doing it.
There you go.
We have BFAs, and like, we have rifles, but they have BFAs and empty mags. Like I said, the Italian farmer came out with a hunting rifle and was like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, bippity boppity, get off my property." And like, dogs would come and they'd run up into our formation, and we're like, "What the fuck are we doing?" Like,
Circus.
it's wild to me. I felt like I was in World War II sometimes. Like, I would convince myself to like make it more fun. I'm like, man, like, my grandparents and like a whole generation before me was walking through the streets of Italy, except they were actively fighting a war. But
My god.
it's crazy to me. And yeah, it's funny that happened in Bulgaria. And I want to emphasize the point again that these countries are our training grounds. And you can see it with events like, yeah, they accidentally raided a fucking olive oil factory.
What do you
Like,
mean accidentally?
well,
Someone was probably like, "Oh, yo, bro, let's do something. We don't know what to do today. What's that building over there? Oh, whoops."
100%. And just picture being somebody working in that village or working in that olive oil factory, just living your life. And all of a sudden there's fucking paratroopers with multicam rifles. And they're like, "This olive oil factory is ours now." Like, what? Crazy.
That's so silly. I
Crazy.
can't get over that. Oh, man.
So the politics, though, in Bulgaria, it seems like there's still a lot of loyalty to the Soviet Union and Russia. And we kind of talked about that, how people, you know, are still alive that kind of lived through that. And a lot of them really loved it. And you said your active in power political party is literally called the Bulgarian Socialist Party.
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, I'm not sure it's the active one right now. Is it? Because there keeps being like elections and stuff, and re-elections would keep like the government keeps like, you know, falling apart and coming back together. We have like temporary parliament and stuff like that. It's been going on. So many things have been going on. I haven't followed up at all. I've been in the UK for like 8 months. I only went back for like a month and a half now. So I pretty much haven't really kept a close eye on that. But our president is a member of that party. He was chosen by them. He's an ex Air Force. He's a pilot. Yeah, that's a thing. But you know, there's been a lot of as I said, you know, debates in between whose side to be on, etc., etc. And then you have, I think it was our current prime minister. There was something going on with the basically one of our generals or whatever he was, some other politician was saying that what's going on in Ukraine isn't war, Russia isn't attacking, is basically like, you know, he basically named it as like a minor conflict or whatever. And our current prime minister got really pissed off and instantly fired him. So they dismissed him instantly because he's like, you know, this is an atrocity, what's going on, you know, don't speak like that. So, you know, they got rid of him pretty much.
Yeah, you would send me, I think it was like pictures and videos and like news clips of like the craziness of the politics in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Um, so even the people in power are very divided about how to approach this whole situation. And like having to play both sides of the US and Bulgaria, like, I don't know how Bulgaria can remain neutral while there's American troops training there, because that's like on Russia's doorstep, similarly to what we were doing in all the Baltic states before they fucking went into
Well,
Ukraine.
yeah, we were trying to be neutral until your secretary or whatever he is of or I don't know what he is. I think he was Secretary of Defense. He came through and he's like, first thing he did after the negotiations was to publicly announce how this officially settles Bulgaria's position on how it's on NATO's side in this conflict. And we're like, oh man, well that's fucking annoying. What do we do now? Pretty much that.
All of the Eastern European politics just sounds so ridiculous. And I'm not going to schizo rant about what I think about politics and the whole thing. I dated a girl from, not Bulgaria. God, where was it? Sorry, now I'm going down an awful memory hole. It was like
Okay.
former Soviet Union, Moldova.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and the stories that I heard about Moldova, and especially the organized crime and the
It's
government
pretty much
corruption.
a shithole, really. It's been destroyed quite a lot. Like it's not a great place to be. Quite a lot of poverty. Just in general, it's not great over there. To be honest with you, and now currently they're also being affected by Russia. As far as I understood, there's like this neutral or whatever it is territory. Like it's like unresolved which part it is for. Is it like Ukrainian? Is it Moldovan? So the Russians apparently are going in that area. So that's it's pressing nearer and nearer to where we are. So it's very stressful, really, when you think
I
about
can
it.
see why. It seems like, and again, I'm saying this from the outside, and who knows what the fuck is actually going on. A lot of what's
Mm.
happening is the rebuilding of the former Soviet Union and a lot of the formerly Russian states. And Moldova, I do remember hearing, I think from her, that Chisinau, the capital of Moldova, I probably just butchered the pronunciation of that, was actually a choice diplomatic posting for people from the Soviet Union because it was just nice, I guess, then. And it's I can imagine everyone in the former Soviet states are feeling kind of anxious right now.
Yeah. Well, the ones that are we're pretty much we've been in NATO and the EU for a long time now, and so have many other of the ex-Soviet influenced countries. So honestly, I don't know how much that would help anyone in this situation. Because if Russia wants to do something, they're gonna do it regardless. If there's like an underlying interest over there, is gonna happen, and doesn't matter if you're in NATO, if you're outside of NATO, etc., etc. You're seeing what's going on now with like Finland and Sweden. Like those are two of the most peaceful places you can find in the world, and now they are being threatened to actually go under violence and stuff like that, which is crazy to me because it's insane. Like, it doesn't matter if you're part of the EU or not. Obviously they're not, as far as I know. So it's crazy.
So you were in back home in Bulgaria for a little bit. If you had to guess based off of how people are feeling in the moment, do you think if Russia were to do something like they're doing in Ukraine, except to Bulgaria, that they would see like the same amount of resistance that they're seeing in Ukraine? Or do you think that
Resistance, and they'll be with open arms like, hello brothers, well, come in, welcome, sit down, here's the key to the city.
really?
I don't know. Well, that's how I see it, at least. I don't see it like. And to be honest with you, I know my friends are not even gonna bother to listen to this podcast, so I'm gonna tell you, knowing how my friends are, even if something like that happens, nobody's ready. Nobody is ready for that over there back home. Very, very few people who know, like, who know how to shoot we are allowed to, as far as I understood, conceal carry. I was reading about it. I was talking to you about it recently, if you remember. But it's like they're not ready. Like our young generation is and as I told you, there's not many of them, and on the other hand, there's the older men who are old and sick. What are they gonna do? But and a majority of them are pro Russia anyways, so it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good because, and I also have I have a friend who was supporting that the Socialist Party, the current one that is. He was because they hire people, volunteer for campaigning and stuff like that. So he was part of that. Gluing posters, having some benefits about this, that, and the other. So his opinion on these things was pretty much that as well. So you see, it's with the young people as well. It doesn't matter if you're young or old. You can still find people that are pro Russia, pro socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it. It's honestly, I don't really. I'm not a negative person in general, but I personally don't think there's gonna be that much resistance, if any at all, and
Well,
it's gonna be futile anyways.
well, that's if Russia decides to do something similar to Bulgaria.
It will be the easiest victory for them in their entire history. I'll tell you this much.
Well, it doesn't even seem like there would even be any type of resistance.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, it's not my place to like. Bulgaria has obviously like very little effect on me, but for you, like I imagine knowing that, and obviously you don't live in Bulgaria anymore, like full time, but like your family and all these people there, do you like would you be concerned for them if Russia came and like took back Bulgaria, or do you think like the country would just not only embrace it but like it would be good for them? What do you think?
Well, how good could it possibly be? They're currently risking the well-being of their own people. Their own people are living in poverty and are being so extremely limited, and you know both financially and in any other way in Russia itself. How could it possibly benefit us in the time of war being under Russian influence? They're not going to bother doing that. They're going to keep on doing their atrocities like anyone else that's a tyrant of that sort. So, you know, with me, if it comes down to my family, my first reaction would it be to get them out of the country as soon as possible. To get them away from there, and both mom, dad, my grandma, all of them, because I don't, because they're old now, they're older, so I don't know what they could possibly do to defend themselves or to survive in like extreme. If it comes down to that, it would be extreme poverty and it would be extremely difficult. You know, I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think I could possibly leave my family there. It's just like the reason why they're still there is because they're not thinking about immigration. That's not their priority whatsoever. They enjoy their life there. They've grown up there. They were born there. But I actually spoke to them about it. Now recently, before I left, I kind of mentioned it. If there's a case of emergency, because they can see how things are going. They are open, as far as I understood. They are open to the idea of evacuating in cases like that. So at least that's positive.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you think that they would leave?
They
I
would. They would.
I
I
can't
think they would.
imagine even having to have that thought. I really empathize with your family and you and everybody else that's in, one of the Baltic states or Ukraine, because like I can't imagine having to be like, holy shit, this other country is invading my home country to the point where the best thing to do is leave. That's incredibly sad, and I am very sorry that you and your family are in that situation.
Well, from my point of view, it's never easy. To be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. It's never easy for me personally to leave home, even though I've been living here for 5 years now. It's never easy. Even if I'm there for 1 month, even if I'm there for 5, 6 months, be it 8, 9, like it's never easy for me to come here away from my home, because my home is my home. Okay, that's how it always will be. That's what I'm used to. That's pretty much where your heart is. Where you're born usually is where your heart is. With some people it's different, but with a lot of Bulgarians is the case. We're very nostalgic for our country, because it's genuinely, if you're, you know, middle class ish, it's life's okay. It's a calm life. Nothing more, nothing much you would want from it, aside from, earning a little bit more maybe. But it's never easy separating for me. But I'm used to it. At this point, I'm used to it. I can do it, but I can't imagine how it would be for them, because I already witnessed, like, my dad having to separate from his childhood home, because after my grandparents on his side passed away, he had to sell the house eventually, and that was extremely difficult for him. He still can't get over it. And I don't think he ever will, but thinking that he would actually physically have to get up and go out of his own country because it's, being, destroyed and invaded, it would be very heartbreaking. I don't know how he'd take it, or my mom for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, one point that I've been trying to talk with people about, especially when the war in Ukraine kind of started and everybody was posting stories and videos and pictures all the time of war and, dead bodies and buildings being destroyed and houses being destroyed. Like, that is, like, I understand why people are doing it, but part of me wishes that didn't happen too much, because what it does, it desensitizes you to these horrific events and the psychological toll that could take. Let's say somebody escaped Ukraine or moved out of Ukraine before this started happening, and now they're watching their village that they grew up in being bombed, being destroyed, seeing people that were riding bikes like shot. Like, it's the psychological effect that the war and social media has had on people, I think, is more harmful than it is good for a lot of people. And when you see something like that happening, I understand the importance of sharing it and talking about it. But it's not real for us living over here. As much as that might sound like a shitty thing, like, we can look at it, we can have feelings towards it, but the reality is, for like us here in America, that's not a real problem for us. But for people living in Bulgaria, for people living in Ukraine, for people living in all these Baltic states, where they're constantly, that's all they're seeing is dead bodies. And that horrific video where this family was in a little village and a little kid screaming as a Russian jet like bombed something nearby, like, that's real. That's a very real thing to not just the Ukrainians, but to all of those countries, and to your country as well. I am tremendously sorry that this is something that is happening in modern day, but I'm
Well,
glad that you're.
yeah, sorry for interrupting you. This entire thing, that this whole boom that was happening when the war kicked off, was with all the social media posting thing. I understand a lot of people would say, "Oh, but this is the reality. You have to face it. This is what is happening right now in Ukraine. You have to see this." Um, okay, I understand it, but it's such a difficult topic, because not everyone can stomach these types of stuff. I personally try and avoid this type of content, and I avoided majority of it. Like, it's war, it can't possibly be good, can it? And like, a lot of there's this Ukrainian artist that I follow. She unfortunately was stuck there for a while in her bathtub, ironically, with a few other people she was living in. They were just huddled up in the bathtub while as things were going outside. I remember she was posting stories and stuff. She was absolutely terrified. It was like a morbid experience, because it's still, I'm looking at it through my phone, but it's like I can't really physically experience it as much as I can empathize with it, but it still is very something very upsetting and very morbid to look at. But on the other hand, she is one of those people. She thankfully she's okay now. She's abroad. I'm not too sure where exactly she is. I think she's in Romania now or further away. But she keeps posting a lot of content about it, and she posts a lot of the jarring stuff. But on the other hand, she does something that is on the other side of the spectrum, which I'm personally very conflicted about, which is a very anti-Russian stuff. Like in her opinion, at least, it was it's not Putin's fault. It's every Russian citizen's fault that this is happening. It's not just Putin's fault. This, that, the other. It was like her content is like on the other very far end of the spectrum. Like, and I understand it. I assume it's coming from this entire huge frustration that she had to experience and this huge trauma. I could possibly not imagine what must be going on in her head. But that must be her just primal reaction to the entire thing. So her posting this jarring content as well, these images and videos, she was like, oh, the world must believe, the world doesn't believe that this is a war, that this is going on. Who's telling you these things? Everyone's very loud and clear seeing what's going on, and I'm pretty sure like no one's gonna look at it. Like, you gotta be an idiot and see this and be like, oh, it's all right, there's nothing going on. It's silly, it's ridiculous. Obviously there's a huge conflict going on, there's a huge war that's going on there right now. It's sad because it's the civilians and the simple people that are suffering the most from it. I cannot say anything about if Ukraine's government is in the right, if they have any wrong in the situation. If I can't say anything about Russia. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Nobody does, and nobody ever will, because obviously there's been involvement, like a huge involvement. One of the speculated reasons why the entire thing kicked off was because of some things that Biden has been involved in Ukraine, and it's there's a lot going on that we don't know, that initially was said to be things to do with NATO and Ukraine and Putin not wanting NATO nearby, but that's ridiculous because there are countries right at the border with Russia that have been in NATO for a long while now. It just doesn't make sense when you try and piece the things together. It's I don't
Well,
know.
there's a lot of propaganda on a lot of different sides.
Yeah, on both sides, and that's one thing, is because there's been propaganda, a lot of propaganda on the Russian side. If you see, it's crazy how many people in Russia they do genuinely support this. Obviously they do, and on the other hand, you have like the false stuff that the Ukrainian side has also shown, like photos and stuff like that, and the logic is, oh, but it's positive, it's gonna motivate people. In my eyes, I don't think that's a great thing. I don't know, maybe that's a controversial thing to say, but to me, no propaganda is good propaganda. There's no such thing in my eyes. It's the same that's been even during World War II. For instance, the propaganda in the States, how was it? It was trying to portray enlisting and going to war as this great thing with so many benefits and so amazing, when in reality was full of horrors, having to face the German army. It's insane. So I don't know.
The best propaganda is truth, and nobody knows what the truth is on any side. And I think there will be a time and place to reflect on history and be like, why did this happen? Who was in the right? Who was in the wrong? But right now, I think the important thing to focus on is that Putin and the Russian army is invading another country, whatever the reasons might be, and they're not just fighting conventional forces, they're attacking villages, they're killing civilians, they're going around like raping their women. Like, this is it's a very sad and tragic thing that is happening. And I mean, you see when they withdrew from that one city, when the Ukrainians went back in, there were people that were literally executed.
There was a lot of speculation on that as well. I don't want to speak specifically in detail about those specific cases, because there was a lot of controversy around it, that a lot of things were, faked and staged. It was talked a lot in my country about it. I've seen this been talked about in the
Really?
States as well. Because there was this footage of body bags and people in body bags allegedly, and with their hands tied, but the people spotted that they're doing this to um, already dead bodies and stuff like that. And you see, my dad was talking to me about seeing footage on some Bulgarian news talk show or something like that of one of these alleged victims in a body bag. But at one point that body bag was like the corpse in the body bag was smoking a cigarette. How the fuck is that happening? Apparently not a clearly dead person. So technically there was something going on under there where they're trying to portray Russian crimes 10 times worse than they already are anyway. So, so it's just instigating on their side as well to make things worse and worse in order to get more countries to join into the fight. And, that's speculation, okay? That's what I'm not saying this as my personal opinion. This is speculation. These are things that I've read, I've seen, etc., etc. I've been told. That's literally what it is.
Well, to go along with what Ana said, Mitch, I'm going to preface this, and I shouldn't have to preface this, but a lot of people are just so fucking binary that I have to. I'm not pro-Russian, just like I wouldn't say that I'm pro-Ukraine, but I am anti-imperialism. I'm anti-invasion. I think that the incursion on another country's soil with violence for, just to expand your borders is fucked up. I don't like it. That being said, Ukraine, and again, this is not pro-invasion, Ukraine's not exactly a country full of angels, and it never has been. And they, former Soviet state, they have a very similar playbook when it comes to propaganda and false flags and everything else. That none of this surprises me. It doesn't. And I understand why they would do it. And Russia does very similar things. And, the big victims of this war are the people who aren't fighting in it, the civilians in the villages, the soldiers who are dragged into something that they don't want to be a part of, the men, women, children all over. But it would not surprise me even a little bit if the machinations of the Ukrainian propaganda machine are working just as hard as Russia's.
Yeah,
technically, logically, they would have to be, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
To kind of counter the entire situation. I don't know. It's been very confusing, the entire thing, because you don't know who to trust in as a source in this situation. And that's why I think during global events like this, people should work their critical thinking very well, because you can't let yourself be influenced by either side. You have to look at the facts laid in front of you and take everything with a grain of salt. Because I see a lot of it like, poor Ukraine, poor this, poor that. Again, civilians, nothing to do with this. Absolutely innocent people on both sides, even on the Russian side, because, as I told you about this artist blaming the Russian people as well, because, you didn't vote, you this, that, the other. They don't really have much choice. The people who tried to protest were, obviously arrested. There's been violence going on with protesters and stuff like that. And you have you have no idea what sort of influence Putin has over the Russian people. I've watched these interviews like years ago. It was like 4 years ago. I was watching these interviews about because I was very curious. There's these images of Putin where he's fighting karate, riding a horse, like being this like cool dude, and then on the other hand you have him like hugging cuddly animals and like little dogs and bears and little baby leopards and stuff like that. And I was like, this is so comical. Why is this the case? And I did like a little research, and I was like, why does he have like these really odd images of him? And what I found out is that it's to show the Russian citizens that he is a dangerous man of power, but also has a soft side. You understand? It's like their people are being treated and manipulated and propagandized on as little kids. That's how majority of like a lot of dictators. I'm not claiming Putin's a dictator. I'm just saying, comparing to history, that they do treat them like sort of like little kids. And this interview that I watched, it was I think it was an American going in Russia. I think it was either in St. Petersburg or in Moscow. And he was interviewing people about Putin. And he was like, what do you think, about Vladimir Putin? What do you think about your president? And he was expecting to hear at least one, critical person about it. Nope. Everyone's like, they're talking about a topic, and then when that question comes up, their brain just like switches, and they're like, oh, our president's amazing, our president's incredible, we love our president. Like, it was scary, and I was watching it, and I'm in shock and disbelief. I was like, this is a crazy switch between, these things. Like, so you don't understand how strong the influence is. So it's inevitable for that type of propaganda to be, be so influential in them, and for a lot of them to actually be, pro what's going on, pro the attack, pro the invasion. They don't think this is an invasion. They don't think that's wrong.
Yeah, I read this book by a former Russian, kind of like their Secret Service, and he defected essentially and fled. I don't remember where he's living now. It's not the United States. It's another place that Russia can't really like touch, I guess. But I was reading this book about what they would do for like literal propaganda. For example, if like Putin was sick, they wouldn't put him on TV. They would say like he's going on like a hunting trip, and they would get like an animal, like a great trophy animal, and like stage it and then film like a quick propaganda of like Putin shooting and like doing this whole like hunting trip thing, because they couldn't show their president as like weak. And there's countless other examples of this happening. It's crazy the lengths that they will go for perception. And like you said, it starts when they're kids. And, to hold the people accountable for what their government is doing, I think is crazy. There's this actress who's from Russia, who was getting shit. She's not even a Russian citizen anymore, and she was getting shit from people all over the world that are like, "This is your like not saying it's directly her fault, obviously, but like, what are you gonna do to, fight Putin from this or condemn Putin for invading Ukraine?" And she's like, what the fuck am I gonna do?
Exactly.
What are the people supposed to do? There was a story, I think it was Colin Mayfield. He's a independent journalist. I think he actually does stuff for Popular Front too. I'm sorry, Colin, if you're not the one who reported this, but you are somebody who I greatly enjoy. He's a great journalist. I'd love to talk to him one day. But I think he was the one who reported from inside of Russia that if you were protesting the war in Ukraine, you were taken, thrown in jail, and basically told you need to join the Russian army and go to the front lines, or you're going to stay in prison. I don't know how true that is, or if he was the one who posted it. I think maybe he did. I'm pretty sure he did. Maybe he didn't. But that kind of stuff is happening and has happened for such a long time. The propaganda is crazy.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is crazy, and it's done in such a way, in such a subtle way that you can't sense it. Like, even us, me and you guys, we probably get manipulated in so many ways without us realizing, because it's done so subtly. It's like that's why I think it's a great thing for people to be more interested in history, to kind of learn and see where things with propaganda started, how they've been happening through the years. Like, for instance, I know it's a big no now in this day and age to look at anything related to Nazi Germany or the World War II and stuff like that, because if you even set your eyes upon that content, you are a Nazi yourself, you're instantly a supporter. That's bullshit. It's very interesting, specifically reading stuff written by Joseph Goebbels. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but the Minister of Propaganda of Hitler. He had a lot of interesting things to say about propaganda itself. His famous quote about if you say a lie enough times, it becomes a truth. He said that, as far as I know. So on their side, and also during Stalin time, obviously on their side, the propaganda is like, it's good to look back on history, because history does repeat itself. It's a bit, the tools are different the way we fight now. It's not cave times with sticks, but the ideas are still the same. Even in primitive times, they had a way to manipulative one tribe and the other. So I think it's good for people to learn from history. It's like limiting yourself and saying, if I consume, this type of stuff, it makes me a bad person. I've seen a lot of this. It's so ridiculous to me. It's like it's stupid. I think people should learn a lot from history, so exactly things like this don't affect them and don't come back to them.
Just the what you were talking about with like Putin, shirtless, cuddling these animals, it has to convey strength, or and again, nuance. Overall, me saying this is not supporting Putin in any way, or supporting Russia or so and so, and I hate the fact that I have to fucking clarify this. But the West absolutely does that. Everything down to like, oh, the color of your tie signifies, it invokes feelings of strength. There's teams of behavioral psychologists for every political party, every company, every time someone does a major speaking event and they have enough money, there are teams of, marketing shrinks, behavioral psychologists, anything that micromanage everything, down to the fitment of Donald Trump's suit, to the color of Joseph Biden's tie. Like, all of that is so micromanaged to convey certain emotional reactions within, each crowd. And what you were saying, like, oh, they were treating Russian people like children. They treat us all like children.
Yeah,
every single one of us. Every politician treats us like fucking children. And that's my schizo rant for now. I'm not going to get into it any further.
Yes, accepted.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it exists everywhere. Propaganda at this point, like, it's becoming, like, we already talked about UN 2030 with Richard Graham. But
yes, I want to fucking get. We're going to get into this at some point. World Economic Forum. Fucking. I was talking with Colin Underdahl from Modlight. Cool guy. We had a conversation last night.
Chad Light. Chad Defensive is the best.
Fuck you. I like Modlight. Eat my entire ass. We were talking last night about like Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. Yeah, actually, no, we're not going to go down this whole thing right now. But Agenda 2030, all of this, we'll circle back later.
Well, with that stuff, what I was relating it to with like the world propaganda, like there's an agenda, and they don't hide it. I don't think it's even controversial to talk about, because they're very open and honest about it. But I think
they are. They publish everything. It can't be a conspiracy theory if they talk about everything, right?
Yeah, but
because it's so far-fetched sounding that nobody's gonna believe it. That's the best. The best secret is lay out in front of you. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's like, they don't even have to hide it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like I said, it's not just Russia. Like, every country that's involved, that has like a government, like there's propaganda. Some do more than others. Some are more extreme than others. But, propaganda doesn't even have to be malicious. It can be something that, people that are putting it out or speaking about it have the best intentions and they believe what they're saying, but it still becomes propaganda by means of delivery and manipulative verbiage. It's an intriguing topic, but I think when it goes to Russia, the way that they do it and the way that Putin has almost mastered it, I think people forget just how smart of a guy Putin is. Like
He was in the KGB for quite a long time since he was a young man. He's not an
Yes.
idiot. These like people like him, and as I mentioned, like big leaders from history, like even Adolf Hitler and Stalin and people like that. People are like, okay, they're horrible, atrocious monsters, but they're not idiots. They weren't stupid. They were incredibly intelligent people. Like, and for instance, for Hitler, for someone who's like he was like this measly little man that was like very uninspiring. I was watching a documentary the other day about him, and a woman was saying that she met him during World War One when he was, himself still, before he became a dictator. He was still a simple person, and she's like, when I saw him, he was like this little mousy man. Like, you wouldn't think he would become a great leader in person like that. Where did this charisma come from? Like, but that's the thing. Like, these people like have built over the years this type of charisma and this intelligence and everything else, like this manipulativeness. Being manipulative doesn't make you stupid. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Like, you know how to take the facts and how to twist them in order to control somebody. It's very dangerous. So underestimating people and like calling politicians idiots, like, sure, they do stuff that are idiotic to us, but they have a purpose. And that's the annoying thing, is we can't do anything about it, can we?
All of these, plans, everything is war gamed out and planned in advance. Sun Tzu was the one who said that underestimating your enemy was the biggest mistake you could make, to paraphrase him horribly.
Well, and to break it down at a smaller, easier to understand level about just how smart these people are and how they understand things. Like, if you look at influence and how people are influenced, look at the social media gun world, right? If somebody has 500,000 followers, they're going to have more influence over others with their opinion than somebody with 500 followers. Even if the information that one or the other is putting out is correct or not, it doesn't matter, because people will see that other people are agreeing and then they'll hop on that bandwagon. And it's very similar when you look throughout history. People would plant people in audiences to start cheering and to appear very like overwhelmed and infatuated with these people that are speaking, and it's very contagious. Humans like to mimic and they like to feel a part of something. Even in modern marketing, like if you look at WWE and what they do, they pay people to go into the crowds and to get hyped when certain things happen, to get the rest of the crowd hyped. That's obviously a very harmless example, WWE and wrestling. But if you apply the same techniques and strategies to like a dictator, to a Hitler, to a Stalin, to a Putin, to a Kim Jong-un, to any of these people, if you can get a couple people really, really like obnoxiously excited and passionate about what they're saying and what they're doing, that's very contagious and other people will react. And we can't underestimate somebody like Putin. Like, not even, he is very intelligent. He knows what he's doing. And even if it appears dumb to like us over here when he's like, yeah, we're going to denazify Ukraine. This is a special military operation to protect our borders. Like, we can look at that and be like, yeah, that's fucking bullshit. But the people that live there that are not programmed, I'm not going to, dehumanize people to robots, because they're not. They're free thinkers. But as you mentioned, when they're kids, it starts like little things that you think are very like minute and irrelevant, little lies, and that's how you condition the human brain to believe these things. So when Putin tells his country there's Nazis on our border, in order to protect us, we have to go and kill these Nazis, the people are going to be like, yeah, why would Putin lie about that? Like, obviously, like, Nazis are bad. We have to do this. He is a very, very intelligent person. And Russia as a whole has been subject to propaganda for fucking ever. Like, their whole country is built around that. A lot of countries are. And it's incredibly sad seeing a whole country be manipulated. And there's people that protest it, but what fucking happened to him? What happened to the last person that ran against Putin, like, for president?
Was it
you're
Medvedev?
familiar
Who
with the
was the
whole...
last one that was? He was for briefly prison, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Medvedev. He was.
Are you talking about Alexei Navalny? Because he's still in prison.
Yeah, and didn't they attempt to assassinate him?
Yeah, that's really funny. Have we ever talked about that? It's interesting how that happened. They attempted to assassinate him. He escaped to Germany. He teamed up with some independent German journalists. And again, and I have to preface, question fucking everything, but if it is true, it's pretty freaking cool. Teamed up with some German journalists, called the FSB, found, the team leader and one of the people who pretended to be an FSB commander, and found someone on the hit team. And then got the FSB agent who tried to poison him to talk about it on the phone. And, even had the color of his underwear, talked about what kind of poison they used, basically gave him an entire debrief. The independent journalist organization was Bellingcat, I believe. The guy who spilled the beans is almost definitely dead now.
Oh, wow.
But as soon as he came back to the country, he got arrested for, corruption.
Yeah, that type of control. And Putin can justify that to his people. They're like, this guy is making up stories to try, and maybe he fucking was. Maybe this was like a weird fucking, in his mind, genius play to be like, look, Putin is obviously corrupt because he tried to have me killed, and I'm exposing that. Like, maybe he's playing fucking, 5D chess, but he obviously lost. But it just goes to show, like, these people have so much control and immense power over the people. You can't blame them. You can't blame the people of Russia, even if they are supporting the war. Like, you can't hold them accountable the same way that you're going to hold, the Russian military and the Russian government accountable, because I hate to, give them an out for ignorance, but they've been manipulated and lied to since they were kids. And it's like somebody from North Korea who's brainwashed to believe that America is there to, the literal devil, and Kim Jong-un is the fucking god. Like, when they defect, or if they get, for whatever reason, they're not in North Korea anymore, like, you can't blame them for thinking that America is the devil, because they don't know better. That's all they've ever known.
You can't really leave there, can you? They're not allowed to leave there.
They're not allowed to leave, but sometimes they do, or sometimes, like, they step over the border and they get captured, or sometimes they defect. I'm trying to get one on this podcast, a known defector. I've listened to her talk before. Her story is very sad.
I think I know who you mean. Did you know? Was she on like a major media outlet? She was talking about her
Yeah,
escape,
she was.
wasn't it? But that was kind of a controversial person, wasn't it? She's
controversial because she leans to the right now.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't matter your story, if you're right wing leaning, you're instantly discredited. But just her story on, like, listening to what happens to kids where they're literally indoctrinated, and then those kids grow up and be adults and they're still indoctrinated and they believe these things. Like, you can't blame them for the lies and manipulation and, the psychological effect that these governments and literal tyrants have had over these people's lives. And it's the same for Russia, even though Russia is more modernized, obviously, and people can come and go from Russia. And I think up until, this war in Ukraine, like my family would go and visit Russia on vacation. Like, it's not like North Korea where it's completely isolated and they have full control, but that doesn't mean that manipulation isn't happening. So to hold those people accountable is incredibly sad. And it's the same thing like if Bulgaria getting involved, like them sending weapons through other countries, or let's say they chose not to and they chose to, support Russia. You can't hold the people accountable for the actions of a few, even if they were voted in. Like, you can't. It's incredibly sad and complicated, that whole situation.
Well, I understand you can't blame Russians, for instance, and stuff like that, or North Koreans, but when it comes down to a country like ours, who's like, we're supposed to be, progressive, blah blah, which it just sounds funny even saying it like that, but and people that are supposedly, in the EU for a long time and have a lot of Western influence, you would think they have more common sense and learn from their own history. And I don't know. It's just I don't understand it. I don't understand how so many people back home and so many young people lack common sense. It's incredibly stupid to me. Because considering we don't, at least I don't think we have like this strong propaganda that Russians or North Koreans have. We definitely don't, because our country's leadership has been just corruption, corruption, corruption. They think about their own asses. That's about it. So there hasn't. We used to have a person like that. Who used to run the country, who was like sort of like a dictator during Soviet times. But after that, after 1989 until now, we haven't really. At least I don't think so. We've had influential politicians. Actually, maybe I'm talking bullshit now, because we did have like an old prime minister he's a very controversial political figure back home, extremely corrupt. He used to be the head of security for this guy that used to be like sort of like a dictator, as I said. So he's been selling lies to a lot of the elderlies. There's been a lot of stuff going on with him. He recently got arrested, as I was like the same day that I was traveling back home. He got arrested in the same day. For discovering stuff that he's covered up over the years for corruption and stuff like that, because like his party is not the Socialist Party. He's the other major party that's in our country, and then you have the Socialist Party, and those two parties are always head to head, always fighting over stuff, always trying to get each other's members in trouble. So yeah, I think I'm not too sure which side got involved and got him arrested, but he's had a lot of, now that I think about it, influence over the people, because you have some that are extremely devoted to his party, and then you have others that are like, you guys are idiots for supporting his party. So it doesn't make sense now that I think about it. I just never looked into it because it never really affected me personally, so I didn't really think about it in that way.
Have your growing up, I'm assuming even if you weren't like too involved in politics, you had your own thoughts and feelings about everything that's happening. Has that changed at all when you moved out of the country and moved to UK?
I don't know. To be honest with you, growing up, my political views were more affected by the internet rather than my own country and the people there. So I wouldn't say so. It just well, coming from Bulgaria to the UK, it's like it's such a drastic cultural difference to begin with. So here people clown on their politicians so freaking much. So they don't really have respect for their politicians. The older generations, maybe the ones that are still interested in the royal family as well, maybe, but it's not that. In a sense, it's different to us, but in another sense, it's not really, because we ourselves don't really take our politicians as serious the same way as these people do. It's just like, it's confusing. I don't know. Personally, I don't think I had that much difference to me, because when I came here, I was 23 years old. I wasn't, a child. I wasn't too young. I was like, young adult still, so I don't think there was a point in which something influenced me politically here, really. But yeah, maybe mostly through the internet and through meeting people and through meeting Americans, talking to Americans, sharing ideas with Americans is when my ideologies change towards the ones I have now, rather than, anything connected to the UK at all. The UK hasn't really influenced me to anything else but
So
wanting to leave it.
Americans and the American, view, that's influenced you more than like living in UK?
Yeah, because nothing can influence you here in the UK. And anyone who's lived here for a while that comes from a different place, different part of the world, there's nothing that can be developed here. Nothing can grow here. Nothing can mentally develop here at all. It's like the situation here is like a whole different animal compared to any part of Europe. Is because they have let go of their control fully, because they don't listen to their politicians. They don't give a crap. I don't think if they've ever had to endure in recent years propaganda or anything like that. And because there's so much, you guys have freedom, they have frivolity, if that makes sense. There is no discipline in their families, in their children, in nothing. Like there's no motivation towards like positive development in this country, at least from my point of view. And is this like incredibly strong self entitlement that all of them have, from their younger ones to their older ones. And it's like it's not a place that like, I don't know. It's like this stagnant island full of these like horrible people. That's my personal experience from it. Of course, there's nice, lovely people with ambitions here as well, but that's just majority of the mentality, and a lot of that also, in my opinion, has to do with like the massive amounts of immigration that's been happening for many years here in the UK, because there's barely any British people here anymore, so majority of it, that is. But yeah, I had someone recently visit here, and he was walking around and he's like, I feel like I'm in the Middle East. Like there's barely any white
It's
people
like
here.
Toronto.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people from Luton that I know, like a lot of Asian, but Asian like Pakistani type of people. They have a lot of relatives in Canada.
Oh yeah.
That I know of. They do. They have like sort of like a thing. They go from the UK to Canada very often, actually.
Did we talked about it briefly before. Aren't the Ukrainians being denied entry to Bulgaria right now?
No, they're not. They're denied entry to the UK. The UK explicitly said, they explicitly said we don't want this. Like, not that they don't want it. They're gonna send aid, but Boris Johnson is like, they're limiting the entry, as far as I know. Now, when I was at the airport, there were like corridors going to aid Ukrainians, so I'm not too sure. Back home, we do take a lot of Ukrainian immigrants. But it's really interesting because our country has a lot of petty people in it, and I think I told you that story recently. We had a lot of like, I think it was like 17,000 something, like in my city alone, where my parents are. Because I'm isolated in a village, but my parents live in a big city. So there's a lot of them in there. So what happens is, you see them everywhere. Even now, when I was back home, you see them on the bus, like everywhere. You hear them speak in their language, and a lot of Bulgarians got really worked up about it. Not because there's Ukrainian immigrants here, but because when they stop in a it's like a blue zone. When you park your car in a blue zone, you get fined, your car gets towed, or you get like a big fine. But Ukrainian cars with Ukrainian registrations would not get fined. So what Bulgarians would do, they'd go and take their license plates away. Just because, out of pettiness. Like, do you understand? These people are fleeing from war, like from such a bad state of life currently, and you go to this other country supposedly helping you, and you get your fucking license plate stolen because of you don't get fined. It's so ridiculous to me.
That's fucking wild.
It is. It was wild to me as well.
So moving kind of away from Russia and Ukraine, since the last time we've talked, I think you've become kind of a more well-known artist within kind of like the gun and 2A community. What do you... I certainly think so. I'm very happy. Did I ever tell you how I found out who you were?
I'm not too sure. Remind
me thinking that you were a dude because we were chatting about football. Somebody, I don't remember who. I wish I could remember so I could tell you. But somebody just randomly commented on a poster like, when are you going to get Victim Henry on? And I was like, yeah. And
really?
They put your
I
ad.
remember that.
Yeah, they put your ad, and I went and I looked at your page. I'm like, holy shit. Like, this dude is really fucking good at art. And I mean, I saw you recently hit, what was it, like 4,000 followers now? Yeah, fucking crushing it. But I see your art around a lot more, which is great. Like, I'm super fucking pumped for you. How do you think kind of art and the gun tactical world kind of, because on paper, you wouldn't think that they combine very well or they mesh very well. Why do you think that's, personally, I think it's becoming more relevant, more and more lately. Do you think similarly as an artist?
First of all, thank you very much for the kind words. And second, from my observation, I've been seeing a lot of new artists emerge, like very good ones, including that. I think it's a girl that makes those cookies.
Oh, yes.
Like
Wait, Sweet Treats.
Huge fucking shout out to her. I hate to interrupt you. She is so fucking cool and so talented with what she does. She sent me some retirement. I mean, I purchased them. I purchased myself some retirement cookies because I'm allowed to consume sugar when I'm retiring. And
no, you're not.
To be a hypocrite for a previous episode.
The dark chocolate pecan, like oatmeal pecan cookies that she made me were out fucking standing. And like, even she does like Glock cookies and like rifle cookies. She's great. You should, if you're listening to this right now, Waits, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Waits Sweet Treats. Go give yourself a treat. Does not
sponsor us in any way. She's an artist and she's wonderful.
Yeah. She doesn't sponsor us, but I'm going to shout her out anyway. She's fucking fantastic.
Yes, please. No, she's wonderful.
Go get yourself a cheat day from Cookies with Her. She said,
support sugar that does not come from John Harvey Kellogg.
I was talking with her, so she listened to that episode. She's fucking great. And she's going to start putting like disclaimer stickers on her cookies that like, if you get fat, it's your fault.
You good.
It's fucking great. I love her. And I love her business that she's doing with cookies. It's great. Anyway, sorry, Ana. Please.
No, furthermore about her, actually, it's funny how I found out about her because I was checking my requested messages and I saw one saying like, you draw AKs, look at what I made. And she sent me a photo of her little AK cookies and I fell in love. I was like, oh my god. So I instantly shared it. I was like, this is wonderful. So I followed her content. I think that's genius. Like, that's really fucking cool because it's not easy to make like these tiny details and make things like that as edible things. It's crazy. It's really fucking cool. So yeah, big shout out to her for sure. Yeah, as I was saying, I see a lot of new artists emerging and spreading more positive information about the gun community, which I think is fantastic. It's great. But what I also see is that bigger companies are also sharing artwork of artists, including like Haley Strategic. They have shared my work. They've shared other artists' works as well. I think that's really good, because them encouraging us, helps us spread the information more and more to more people, including obviously big YouTube creators that also support and share our work and make us grow with them, rather than being negative about it, or dismissive about it, which I think is good. Helping each other grow together, and spreading more positive information about the community, about the Second Amendment. I think that's great. I think that's a positive step forward.
I'm going to humble brag for Nathan because he'll never admit it. I think, personally, since we've started doing this, Nathan and his art has opened my eyes to a lot more people doing art kind of within the gun tactics community. And I think it's helped. I mean, maybe I don't want to speak for other artists, but from an outside perspective, from somebody who's autistic and not artistic, I think Nathan and what he has done has enabled a lot more artists to see that there is a need for that within the community. And the more that people that get involved, I think the more people feel enabled. And I'm proud that Nathan's a part of the team over here. I mean, as much as I am. So I'm going to humble brag for him a little bit there, and think
Thank
from
you,
an
man.
outside perspective that he's had a large influence on that. Maybe not the total influence, obviously, but I think a large influence on the growing number of artists within the community.
I agree with you. That's
Thank you,
definitely
man.
true. Yes, and not only that, but his work has also improved a lot. It's great. And by the way, the new target looks incredible. It looks super awesome, and the detail is
Thank you,
incredible as well.
Creepy
So
Klaus.
that's
Creepy. Oh my god, I just mixed
Exclusive
up
on
my
our
heart.
Patreon.
Oh,
yes.
so thank you.
Just plug that in.
That's very kind, Mitch.
So, Anna, do you think that, because I mean, I think for starters, there is a ton of artists out there that are now starting to get involved in kind of the gun 2A world, as they should be. There's so much talent, and such a need. Do you think that kind of the stuff that you're doing, because I think what you do is kind of unique, not only in the style, but the purpose behind it. You're not doing it to make money. You're not, I mean, you do art to make money, I'm sure, but even on your page, you're like, I make fan art, and you make really, really detailed fan art. And you're not making guides on like tactical stuff like we are. It is very much just like, it seems like a passion project for you more than anything. Is that gonna change for you, do you think, now that you're starting to grow a bit more and your presence is starting to get more well recognized, and a lot of the people at the higher levels within the gun tactics community like know of you, and they've you do work for them. I don't know how that information looks. I'm not going to give any specific names, but I won't
No.
give any specific names, but I've talked with some of the people that we're friends with here, and we'll talk about you. Like, they'll even bring it up, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, good for fucking Anna. She's
Really?
getting out there. People know her shit.
And I don't know about it. Nobody ever
Well,
tells
I'm
me
telling you
anything.
now, you are a
Oh, thank you.
a lot of very well-known people within the community know who you are, and you obviously know who they are.
I
All
hope
good
good
things. I haven't
things.
heard anything bad. How
Oh,
has that been for you? Because, like I said, you kind of, even on your page, you're like, I do fan art. How has that been now that, like, the people that you have done fan art for, or maybe even people that you haven't done fan art for, now, like, know who you are and recognize your work, and kind of, you do stuff for them now?
personally, how I work is for me, in order for me to draw something, to make something, it has to drive me. I have to have the drive for it. It has to like really, really inspire me. And I had someone, a follower that sort of turned into a friend, who, when he first followed me, he mentioned that, in his words, um, I draw unusual stuff, like stuff that some artists wouldn't think of, because I draw strange details of reference photos that I saw that gave me an impression of something. Like, if you saw recently, I had a story post about admin results. He had this story of him going to a restaurant holding a menu, and I remade that as a Haley strategic catalog and stuff like that. Like, I take several stuff and put them together. Like, it's like I understand now that at first, when he said that comment, I was a bit confused. Like, what do you mean unusual? I just do art like anyone else. I reference, I do stuff that I see. But now I understand what he meant. It's just not traditional stuff that most artists do. I kind of put together stuff that I find personally very visually stimulating and interesting. That's what drives my work. It's not so much because I've been approached to do like sort of corporate design type of stuff. I I would love to, okay? I just physically cannot. I'm physically incapable to produce anything like
Oh
logos or
yeah.
stuff like that, like commercial work. I am physically incapable. Like, my brain shuts off. It just says, like, fuck off. I do not care how much you're gonna pay me. I will not do this because I physically cannot. I wish it wasn't the case, because it brings quite a lot of money. Obviously, we have to eat, we have to make money. But my personal work, obviously, it's not money oriented. I do a majority of it, as you said, as a passion project. Obviously, it's great that people are interested in commissioning me. And ironically, you'll be surprised, 99% of my work is drawing family portraits. I'm literally a family artist. That's what I do. People are usually like, can you draw my wife? Can you draw me and my wife? Can you draw us with our dogs? Stuff like that. That's like 99% of my commission work is just that. And I love it. I don't mind it. I don't mind it because it's still, drawing people and stuff like that. I think it's nice. It's lovely. So basically, probably one or two commissions in the past year have probably been anything tactical related, which is kind of funny. I just become a family artist, like a family photographer. It's really funny. But yeah, when it comes down to how my work is gonna progress, I can't really tell you. I've been trying to focus more on animations. I have like one, like quite a big one that I've been working on and off recently. That's eventually gonna be finished. I wish to do more animation projects, like having more time to do it. That's the main key. That's what keeps me back from it, because at the end of the day, that's what I graduated as well. But it comes down to incorporating my style and the detail of it into, moving pictures. I personally really enjoy it. I think a lot of people will also. They have so far. So, hoping for more of that.
One of the things that I absolutely love about your style of art, you'll put flares of color that wouldn't make sense, but you make them work. Like lots of random, like purples and pinks, like in weird spots that you wouldn't think work, that just really make it pop and unique. I love your style. I think it's fucking fantastic. And you showed me some of the things that you've animated before, and stuff that you're working on. And holy shit, there was a video. I don't know if you've heard of him before. The Odd One's Out. He's a YouTuber.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
so
Yeah, of course.
I was talking with Nathan, and I watched that video, and I was talking with him. I'm like, is like animation this fucking difficult? And
Yes, I remember you asking that.
yeah, like I had no fucking idea. And it only makes me.
That was the one where I was talking about like how long it takes to do a background and how long it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this background that shows up for 3 minutes, it took one artist that he hired 7.5 hours to make it, or something like that. And yeah, it's the same with comic books. And animation's a whole different beast than comics. There's a reason I don't like drawing backgrounds
from
there.
Oh yeah, me me neither. That's my biggest weakness. Obviously, my my weak spot is that, but I've been working hard on it. So hopefully we'll see more progress and nothing boring, because I keep secretly recycling old backgrounds and people don't really notice. I hope they don't. I'm getting away with it for a little bit longer. Yeah, but as it comes down to animation, and from my point of view, I don't really find it complicated. The editing part is the most complicated part to me because I'm really bad with technology. But otherwise, the actual process of drawing it, I get into this like tunnel vision type of thing. I get hyper focused when I work on animations, so I can sit for hours, drawing the same thing over and over and over again. Like I get into this loop, into this trance. So I just keep going and going and going. Sure, sometimes some angles don't work out. You have to rework them and stuff. But with like solid reference and knowing, depending on what you're animating. But in my case, for instance, like anatomy and gear, like currently what I'm working on, I've been doing a lot of like process of like weapons shooting and like the detail of like recently I posted like a short bit of it where I think it was a Glock, like shooting a Glock, and you can see every bit and every part of the gun, like where the bullet comes from, comes out of, and stuff like that. Like when you have like solid reference for that, it works out. But for me, someone who loves doing it, I don't really feel it difficult. It's long. It's a long process. It's really tiring, but it's not the negative type of tired. It's just like if you love doing it, it just happens. Like if you have something in life that you really like doing, but it's like quite complicated from anyone else's point of view, you'll understand
Well,
what I
it's
mean.
kind of like bursts of inspiration. I think Nathan experiences it with art. I experience it with other things in my life. I feel like art is such a mental thing where, like, physically, if I don't feel like going to work today, right, I can still go in and do my job. But I feel like to make art, you have to be engaged mentally. And I'm sure with practice, like, I'm kind of curious for you, Nathan, like, because you've been doing our style for so long and you've been doing similar things with our art for so long, like, are you able to not necessarily space out, but you're still focused on the art, but you're able to maybe not multitask, but like not be as fully engaged with it? Is that something that
You're going to have to elaborate on that. What do you mean?
So like, for example, I can go into work when I'm really not mentally feeling it and just physically go through the motions and still get the job done, and you probably don't notice a difference. I feel like with, like, if you're doing a commission or a unique piece of art in like a style that you don't necessarily do, you have to be fully engaged to do that. But, and correct me if I'm wrong with that too, but when it comes to like a style or something that you've been doing before, are you able to kind of not half-ass, but like, as I said, you show up, you go through the motions, and maybe, the everyday person doesn't notice a difference, but maybe you, the artist, or like another artist who's more critical of it and knows what they're talking about, can pick something out?
Sometimes. I think, Mitch, as you've noticed, if I really don't want to do something, it takes a while. It, like, of me working on it, it takes 200% of my energy. There's a certain kind of middle ground where, if I'm just drawing something, I go through the motions and it gets done, and next thing you know, it's done and 3 hours have gone by. But there's a certain point where I'm really enjoying it and it goes really fast, or I'm not enjoying it at all and it goes really slow. And even if it's a style that I've done a million times, it just feels like the first time and I hate it. So it really depends on the job. But yeah, if you are right, it sometimes I can just shut my brain off and go through the motions. That being said, it still takes ages, but
Yeah, I imagine. Well, with Ana, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong too, Ana. It sounds like you are just like, if I don't want to do this thing, I'm not going to take the job. So you're able to commit hours on end and be happy to do it because it's a very passionate thing for you, I feel. Do you have similar feelings like with Nathan, or is it a little bit different for you?
See, this is why I think that art is kind of a lousy profession to have, because it's not like a tap. You can't just turn it on and it flows. It's it's such a temperamental thing, inspiration, and it's I feel exactly like Nathan. If I have to do something, I take my time with it a lot. Sometimes I can do commissions in like 2-3 days, sure, but sometimes I've dragged them on for a long time because I just physically I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to start it or continue it or finish it. I can. That doesn't affect my artistic ability with it. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just like you can just tell that I like compared to what I've posted it's not the same quality of work because I just don't enjoy it. It does affect it. You can tell. Sometimes you can tell. Even if you're not, if you're just a consumer, you can still tell the difference between, me posting something like incredibly detailed and me posting something like a filler in between my posts just to keep my feed going or something like that. And, or on the other hand commissions and stuff like that. uh i I don't really post commissions, to be honest with you. Not because of that reason, mainly because it's a personal thing, and I don't feel comfortable posting people's personal commissions unless they ask me. Then no problem, I would do that. But otherwise, I keep it out of the way. And sometimes it also may be because of the reason that I'm not too happy with how it turned out, because I wasn't really feeling that drawing that day, because it's something that I have to draw. It's not something that I personally chose, and something that's like my inspiration and my muse, or that specific person that I enjoy drawing that like so much. So because every artist has something different that drives them. For me, specifically, it's faces. I draw a lot of faces. That's like I enjoy that a lot. If a specific face inspires me a lot, I draw it over and over and over again. And I have like several people that I draw over and over and over. And it's like a lot of people might think is like, oh, maybe I'm just milking this content, this, that, the other. The reality of it is just a hyper fixation, and I just need to do it. I want to, and I need to do that, and I want to draw this person. And if it happens to be something that brings in a lot of followers, that's a win. In my opinion, that's a win also. But oftentimes I've had like periods in which I draw something that's insanely unpopular, but I just keep doing it because I'm really inspired right now by it. I don't know if for Nathan that's what do you call it, gear or weapon drawing. I don't know what does personally inspire you, what does drive you in your work.
I genuinely don't know. I can't say. Like the initially it was the education aspect. You draw one gun, you draw 10 guns, you draw 100 guns. It gets a little monotonous. I don't mind it. Like I enjoy it, but that's not what drives me. What drives me was and is generally the message. Like what perceived good that we were doing with it, and still continue to. Like when I do,
Yeah, of course, but not, I mean, like when you're actually drawing something like for
Oh,
yourself, not so much
like
for the account.
for
Like let's
myself,
say
like
for yourself, like
personal art.
what inspires
Oh my
you?
god,
Yeah, what inspires
I don't
you
even
and
remember the
drives
last time
you?
I had time to draw personal art.
I think it was Ted Kaczynski.
What?
Wasn't it the anime Ted Kaczynski?
Yeah, but that was when we were streaming with Paige.
Oh,
Yeah, so that wasn't really personal art so much. It's just like we're just doodling during a stream, and it would be funny. No,
Well,
I
think
don't.
back to when you actually had the
God,
time for it.
I don't know. It's been so long. Ugh. Every time I get any spare time
I
these
broke
days, I'm
you.
just like, I'm going to go for a hike. Like, I'm going to go outside and touch grass or do something. Like, even when I've got spare time, and like even when I'm at home, I'm just, if I'm really toasted, I'll just take an Epsom salts shower or something and just die. I guess I don't really draw for fun anymore, and that kind of sucks because I really enjoyed it. I do enjoy it, like present tense. I just have a long list of priorities. I usually, if I've got the time to go and shoot, and I'm not saying this that other people should do this, I'm just saying this is what I do. If I've got the time to do personal art for whatever reason, I'm going to go hike or train or shoot or something. Yeah.
Okay,
And again,
understandable.
like, this is not saying that anyone else in my situation should do this. This is my choice, and this is what I choose to do. Um, I feel really awful these days if I'm not doing something physical, and I don't know why that is. Maybe I'm just in the habit of it.
It's because I'm working you way too hard.
Well, it's a
Ah,
positive
yes.
awful.
Of
If you
all
ask me.
vices, it's fairly positive.
That
100%.
is, so you would love to draw for yourself, but in terms of priority, it's not really up there for you?
Me?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
Wait, who?
Oh, for
Nathan.
you. Sorry.
In terms of priority, it's moreover like, I don't really have the time. Now this is a transition into my full-time job. I'll put anywhere between 20 and 50 hours a week into it. And, I've been drawing so long, especially, remember I got that repetitive stress injury in my wrist.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
that sucks. I'm
likewise.
sorry.
Yeah, but mine is in my thumb
Ooh,
rather than that.
it
It's really
still
bad.
sucks.
It's
Yeah.
really bad.
No, it's
Yep.
even before then, Mitch, like, I didn't draw that much before going to the page. And now I do it for a living. I'm immensely grateful for it, and I still like it. And I think part of the reason I don't draw that much for myself is I draw things enough that I enjoy enough that I don't feel drawn to it in my spare time anymore. Whereas I do feel drawn to go training. Like, for example, the other day I built a VTAC barricade in my workshop just because that was something I did with my spare time. A friend and I just got together and we cut out two from some plywood. Like, that was the last, like, quote artistic unquote endeavor that I've done in, God, ages. Just don't have time. And in my list of priorities, there's so many that are usually focused around self-betterment. Not that art isn't self-betterment, and if someone feels the urge or need to draw, they should. I usually feel the urge or need to, like, hike or train or build or something.
Well, it's about balance, isn't it?
100%.
Like, you don't want to be, like you said, you already put 20 to 50 hours into art. That's not just for the page, is it? That's like
No,
all.
Jesus, no. That's
Okay.
a minority of it's for the page, especially these days. I haven't been crushing out as much content as I'd like to. It's going to get a little better. I have a job with a design firm, I think, for lack of a better word, that's paying me a set amount a month to crush out designs basically whenever they need. And that's going to allow a bit more time for the page. But most of that is commissions and just, like, enough to keep, bills paid, food on the table, plane tickets, moving expenses, things like that. Like, keeping my car going, keeping me fed, my mortgage paid, all of that. And for the page, on average, I put anywhere between. It used to be more. It used to be like anywhere between 15 and 20 hours a week. Now it's between 5 and 15.
Well, that's interesting because I remember, Anna, I'm sorry, we're not talking about Anna stuff.
No. I'm interested. I'm
I
listening.
remember when we kind of first started, looking back on it, it was a lot for me with what I was putting into it. And
Yeah.
you have to put in, like, probably 3 or 4 times the amount of time I have to put into things because, like, sure, I have to write, I have to format, maybe I have to, like, come up with ideas. And, I'm doing the analytics stuff, which sounds like it could just be a 5-minute thing, but I'm very, like, you're autistic.
You really like that. Yeah.
You're autistic about the art. I'm autistic about the algorithm, the growth, marketing, social media. That's my fucking.
I can't stand that stuff, so I'm glad someone can do it.
Yeah, we make a very good team, but
Yeah, me
Yes.
neither.
thinking about
Understandable.
how much time and how much art that was coming out, like,
Oh, dude, I looked at the folder on my
how are you
computer.
doing
Like,
that?
I don't know. I looked at the folder on the computer of just, like, the CBRN art stuff, and I think just, like, individual assets we have like 400 or 500 files, and I haven't updated it in months, so we have more now.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think when I initially put the folder together, it was like 360 pages of content. And that was whenever I made the website. So that was at least 5-6 months ago.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What we're doing is kind of fucking wild, and how we've gotten there. Like
Yeah.
reflecting on that a little bit, like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not what I expected.
You're
It was
having
like,
a moment.
hey, I made a buddy randomly online. Let's make some stuff, and it's cool. And then here we are. Like, I didn't expect it would. Like, even the podcast, I expected like 5 people would listen to this, and 3 of them would think we're retarded. Instead, it's a lot of people listen to us, and they all think we're retarded.
I am comfortable with saying this. I've looked at other people's numbers and I've compared it, and I'm going to continue to humble brag on the podcast.
Oh, you motherfucker.
There
Self-indulgent.
isn't a podcast in the gun tactical industry that gets better numbers than us, from what I can see.
I can hear the sound of you just cranking it. Just the fleshy slapping.
I'm fucking excited about it. I'm very proud of that.
Yes, as you should be.
I'm very proud of that. I mean, there might be one that I'm not like considering or looking at. I've looked.
We beat Hillary Clinton. That's all that matters.
Yeah, we beat Hillary Clinton. We beat Oprah.
Okay.
You
Hillary
beat
Clinton,
Oprah.
I was like pretty
God.
sure that a bullet's just going to whiz through my window and turn my brain into pink jelly. Now that I know we beat Oprah, it's 100% going to happen. You heard it here first. Neither of us killed ourselves.
Now, and here's the thing. I'm not competitive with people within the industry, but I do use them as a point of reference. I'm not competitive. I'm a big fan of within the industry, like rising tides lift all boats. I'm a big fan of that. And
yes,
I'm working on
bring everyone into the mainstream.
You can still be competitive and supportive, because I'm both, to be honest with you. I am both competitive and supportive. Just because I support another artist's work doesn't mean that I don't still feel competitive and want to do, better for myself.
Yes.
That's you can do both at the same time, and there's nothing bad about being competitive as long as you're not toxic
Yeah,
about
I
it,
agree.
in my
And
opinion.
I'm working on something that's very personal to me when it comes to like marketing and social media and kind of growth in that sense, that I'm going to be sharing with very select individuals, not because I only want select people to be involved with it, but because I'll just say that I'm working on something that hopefully makes the entire gun influencer / like marketing industry within our circle better. And I think with that, the reason why I want to do it is because in the past, when I was kind of first starting out, not for the Seaburn page, when I was the Mira Safety social media guy, people were so fucking pretentious when it came to social media and like growth and maximizing or optimizing algorithms, where I'm like, why aren't we helping each other? So I'm working on something where it's very transparent and we can all, share things that we've experienced in the past. And I think, at least I hope that it helps elevate the entire industry's content, and it helps elevate the quality and, the message of spreading awareness about, firearms and firearm safety, obviously. So we'll see how that goes. I'm putting a lot of work and effort into it. We'll see if it grows and it becomes what I envision it becoming. But yeah, that's our 10 minutes about us. Sorry, Ana, we hijacked that.
Oh my God, we haven't done the self-masturbation fucking tangent for a while. Mitch, you've touched on your grandiose ideas about changing the industry and culture and all of that. I personally think the World Economic Forum will have killed us all in 5 years anyway, so I guess we'll find out.
Well, this will hopefully be a more immediate thing than 5 years. So hopefully before we die, we can at least...
We got 8 years till Agenda 2030, dude. We're all going to be eating bugs.
Put your tinfoil hats on, boys. Put your tinfoil hats on,
my tinfoil hat's already on. It lines my baseball cap that I'm always wearing.
Ana, to continue talking about us a little bit, but I'm actually curious now. I've talked with some other artists kind of within the industry, and I've kind of had like a realization about myself and why art never worked for me. It's because I am very competitive and I get like so much fucking satisfaction out of being competitive. And that's why sports are a big thing for me and coaching is a big thing for me. I found that to have that level of competitiveness within the art industry, you'd be a fucking dickhead if you were like that.
Um, yeah, I understand. See, that's one big fault in beginner artists is what they do is they compare their work to big artists, um, and that's not so much from competitiveness. That's more so of well, am I ever gonna reach that point and stuff? But so I get it. That's one thing that actually stops a lot of beginner young artists to progressing to becoming professionals, is that they do compare a lot, and maybe they are competitive. Yeah, they are competitive to someone bigger than them, while not having the patience to actually build that skill, because it obviously takes years. You can't, unless you're so incredibly blessed from God with some alien talent to be able to draw masterpieces from very young age, because there are people like that. They have an insane perception about how they create art. But as it comes down to in the more professional environments, to be honest with you, I don't even consider myself, I couldn't say professional. I consider myself being a good artist, but to me, a good artist isn't really a professional artist. To me, those things are two separate things. I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I have noticed that the competitiveness, which turns into more of a rivalry sometimes between content creators, it kind of it's just not a healthy dynamic in the community, and it creates a lot of gatekeeping. It creates a lot of just not good approach to creativity. That's not what art should be about in general. If you're doing like commercial work, like corporate work, sure, all power to you. Be competitive, maybe, but when it comes down to stuff that like sort of like what I do and like fellow artists do similar to me, is it's kind of counterproductive being competitive with each other, and because that's the same as when I see a very good artist, even if they're better than me. I approached them and asked them to do a collaboration so we can learn from each other, so we can put up something together. That's a very positive way of kind of fighting that sort of maybe insecurity, sort of like toxic competitiveness. Like, I think that's one of the good
That's what I
approaches of
love
it.
and appreciate about kind of the artists within kind of like the gun community. Everybody is so fucking supportive.
Yes.
And I love it. I love seeing it. But
Everyone is so supportive, but God help you if that one guy who told us the tactical reloads didn't exist.
Yeah.
Fuck
Yeah.
that guy.
Well,
I'm going to put him on blast. He can eat my entire ass. I have no
Who's
idea who
that?
he was. He just said oh, you'll never have to reload from retention. Oh, you guys are retards.
Yeah.
I mean, no, you'll never have to retain your megs during a reload. Why would you ever do that?
But like the artists themselves are very supportive of each other, and
yes.
I love to see it as somebody from the outside in. My problem is, and why I don't think art works for me, like to create it, is because I'm a competitive dickhead, and I completely recognize. If you coach against me in soccer, I am a fucking menace. I'm talking shit from across the fucking field. I am a dickhead. And I recognize that. I will get into it with refs in the middle of a fucking game. I don't like that is my fucking niche. That's where I completely ignore fucking Taoism, and that's where I completely ignore like my beliefs like about the world. I am a menace and a dickhead, and I recognize that. And I'm fucking proud of it. But in the art world, you can't be that way. It just doesn't work. Well,
I mean, you can only if you have the skill to
yeah,
back
but you're
it.
still a fucking dickhead, and it's not normal. I don't think it's normal. Like, picture the Jose Mourinho of the art world. that's like, I am the greatest artist in the world, and like talking shit.
There's plenty of
Yeah,
people
but they're
like that,
dicks and
though.
nobody fucking likes them.
There
But
are
like
in
Joseph,
every type of community, not just in the art community. You always find people that are like that, but that's what makes you stagnant in your progress. That's what stops you. If you think you're the greatest in something, that's just kind of like you're closing the door of progress on
but not in
yourself. It's not
sports.
good.
Not in fucking sports.
Yeah, in sports also, if you're not open to changing your strategy, how the fuck is that going to help you? If you're going by with the, like, look at Zidane, for instance. I'll give you as an example. Okay, if it ain't broken, it don't fix it, is it? But how did that work out for him? If fucking didn't work out, did it? It worked out for a little bit, but if you have the same strategy for something, even as a, let's say, a coach, a manager, like say in a football team, that's not a good mentality, saying I'm the greatest of them all and having no improvement in your tactics
Wrong.
whatsoever. Yeah,
Wrong.
how is it
Zlatan
wrong?
Ibrahimovic has been
How
the most,
the biggest fucking dickhead in football. Don't
he's
talk to me about that
the
fucking
greatest
prick.
fucking striker to this day in the world.
Yeah,
I
sure,
don't care. And
yes,
he
of
will tell
course he
people,
is.
I am a god. He had this whole fucking Nike. It was probably the greatest promotion I've ever seen. He had this whole thing with Nike where it was like an animated version of him. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. I'll have to send it to you after this. It's fucking great. It's like an animated version of him in a mansion, and he's like, tips and tricks with Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And then he'll be like, the no look, no kick. I once scored a goal with the no look, no kick. He's fucking great. That attitude in sports can absolutely work.
I mean, sure, it can work for you as an individual, but do you really realistically think it can
Yes,
work for
I'm
a
a
manager?
manager and I am like that. 100%.
I don't
I am a
agree with
dickhead.
you.
I reckon.
Well, you can be a dickhead, but you can still adapt and change your tactics,
I do
can't
adapt
you?
and change my tactics, but I'm still a
There you
dickhead to all the
go.
other coaches.
Being a dickhead is completely different from being open to changing. That's different. You can still be a dickhead as long as you're making progress and you're open to it.
That's the competitiveness that I'm talking about. Like, I couldn't go if I was a kid and I had put in the effort to become an artist. I wouldn't fit in, and I wouldn't be successful as an artist or somebody who enjoys making art if I had the same mentality that I do when I coach. And I wouldn't get that same satisfaction of talking shit to another coach 50 yards across the fucking pitch and then beating them and then still talking shit while we're going and we're meeting at half field after the match.
Mind
You
games.
can't really do that in art because you can, but like, as I said, the artists in the gun community are so fucking support, and I love it. I am 100% there for it. But I'm saying for me personally,
Yeah, yeah, I understand, but with art, you do start off in the wrong way. Like, nobody starts in the right way with art, and it's such a journey. It's a journey. It's a process, and your mentality changes through your creativity. So even if you start off as a dickhead, unless you're a very stubborn dickhead, no, trust me, people change. If you're an artist, if you're naturally inclined to be an artist, if you're like a naturally artistic, creative persona, that's just it's inevitable. You will change so much. I'm pretty sure Nathan has gone through that as
Oh
well
yeah.
throughout the years. You will change, and your outlook towards art changes, and exactly when it actually changes and when you're open to that change is when your work starts being good. Up until that point, everything's fucking crap. Trust me, that was the case for me up until 2-3 years ago. My work was fucking crap. It wasn't satisfying. It wasn't good. It wasn't this that I'm doing right now. Because I wasn't open to exactly that. I wasn't open to, things that I was afraid doing. Like, for instance, you couldn't make me draw a weapon. I'd be like, this is so complicated. I don't want to deal with this detail. And then, like, I'm like, okay, but let me try and let me keep going, even though it's frustrating. Like, art is a whole journey of you challenging yourself constantly. Okay, it's not a case of, oh, but I'm competitive, this, that, the other. Trust me, you go through a lot of changes. It's layers upon layers and years upon years of you changing, mentally, your everything about you changes psychologically through art, because it's very heavily affected by your emotions, by your lifestyle, by your surroundings, by what inspires you, by what you're drawing. Even when it comes down to, drawing generic art, like, photorealistic crap and, portraits and, traditional art, it's still like a lot of different processes going through you. Or unless you're not open to that process, then you stay in one place and art's not for you because you're not letting it be for you.
Yeah, and I 100% recognize that because of that part of my brain that needs that fucking competitiveness, and it's been that way since I was a child, like I recognize that art just wouldn't work for me because that environment isn't friendly towards that part of, how I act. And, as a growing up, that kind of dickhead, arrogant attitude, that was something that wasn't just in sports. That was my entire personality, unfortunately. Like I cringe really fucking hard at looking back at how I was like 5 years ago, where like I was the greatest fucking thing since sliced bread all around. And, you want to know what fucking humbled me was, I tried boxing someone in the army who I knew was he was on the Army Olympic boxing team, and I was so young and fucking stupid.
Oh boy.
I had never boxed before in my life. I was so young and fucking stupid and full of myself that I was like, let's go fucking put on the gloves, dude. Let's fucking go at it. And he very hesitantly was like, no. Like, I'm not going to get in the ring with somebody like who doesn't like know. But I pushed this guy. I was a dick. I fucking pushed him and pushed him. I was so confident in myself. I didn't even get a chance to like fucking punch. He kicked the shit out of me in like 5 seconds. Humbled the living shit out of me. I'm very grateful that. And there were some other events that happened throughout my life that humbled me in a lot of different ways. And I'm very glad that those events happened. But in terms of,
It's good that you listen to them though, because some people get humbled, but they don't really pay attention to that.
yeah,
do
no,
they?
I'm very fortunate that those events happened to me. But with sports, especially soccer and coaching, because I was a competitive player and I can't play anymore because I'm injured and I just haven't played in years. I'm not good enough anymore. I peaked at like fucking 18 when I was over in Italy. That was like my peak, 18, 19. But now I'm able to channel that type of energy, that competitive desire into being a coach. And it's more acceptable and okay to do it there than it would be in the art world. Like in the art world, you can't like be sitting across from each other, like competitively drawing to beat one another and like talking shit the whole time,
That would be funny as hell though. We should do something
I don't
like
think
that
artists would do it.
sometimes.
Maybe you could get a couple.
I
Yeah,
would.
but it wouldn't be genuine.
That would be funny
It
as
wouldn't be like genuine disdain for the person across from you. When I'm coaching a team, especially I'm moving, so I left that position at the club. For a while there, I was coaching at a very competitive level where I was able to recruit and I was able to bring people in. Like I brought kids over from Cuba, South America, and that level of competitiveness is what I fucking needed. And across the pitch during a game, I would be talking shit to the other coach. Never to the kids. I'm not one of those people who's like fucking toxic towards the kids, right? I'm not angry. I'm not yelling at the kids. I'm not trying to fucking fight kids or start shit with the kids. But with the fucking managers, I went on a podcast recently as a soccer manager, and we were talking about this event. I will talk shit to the other like coach. I'll be like, yeah, you're in a 4-3-3 and I'm in a fucking 3-5-2, you fucking moron. How the fuck are you going to, like, I will be talking shit about like their tactics, about their subs, about their formations. I'm like, yeah, fucking big brain coach over there thinking he can counter my formation by doing this. And I'm like, I'm talking shit the whole time. I'm a menace. And then I'll go, halftime in the league that I was in, It doesn't matter if you're talking shit or not. Like at halftime, the refs and the coaches come together at half field. They talk about the game. They make sure that like everything is going good. I'll go in there and I will talk shit to the refs too. I'll be like, yeah, what a stupid fucking call you made when my player was zooming. Like I'm a menace and I'm a dickhead. Recognize it, but I fucking love it. Like I said,
How many red cards have you had?
you know, I got one, not even in competitive soccer. I started out coaching recreational, which was a mistake. I should have known it was a mistake.
Oh, Lord.
We were beating a rival team in a summer league, so just recreational, but they were still kind of like our rival team. We were winning 17-2, and this ref didn't call a penalty, a very obvious penalty. I got so fucking angry. I went out onto the field and I was just laying into this ref, like in front of, like I said, it was like a Sunday recreational league, and I'm angry. I'm so angry I was out of breath, and I got a I got a card and wasn't allowed to coach for I think 2 games in a recreational league. But that was like how I knew. I'm like, yeah, I can't be. Recreational soccer isn't where I need to be. I need to be competitive, because while it's still frowned upon.
I'm surprised they even had a red card in recreational soccer. They found one for you, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was tough. But God. I realized real quick that I can't be a recreational coach because of that level of competitiveness that I need from sports. I'm getting fired up thinking about it. I really am. I love
can
it.
Tell.
I love that part about me. And it is the only aspect in my life and the only thing in my life that I am comfortable with saying that I am a better manager than anybody that I have ever coached against. I'm very comfortable saying that. I don't care if it sounds braggy. I'm fucking better than them. And I recognize that.
There's not much competition over there
well, that's
anyways,
the problem
is there?
Too. I'm sure over in Europe it would be.
I'm not discrediting your talent, by the way. I'm just saying
you're
in general.
Absolutely correct. And I could do a whole fucking 5-hour talk about how American leagues are garbage and the whole system from the top down is fucked up. And if I went over to Europe, I guarantee you I would be humbled, and I probably need that in order to progress in my life. But while I'm here, I'm not going to be humble because I am better than them.
Yeah,
I'm going to enjoy it until I get over there. But, not to get into it too much, one aspect of US soccer that fucking bothers me. So I took a course that was designed for the United States men's national team and their development program with like the youth. I'm getting so fucking angry. I'm literally shaking with it. It pisses me the fuck off. Their style of play that they're trying to implement to grow the US men's national team is fucking juggling and first time volleys. It's not a style of play for starters. Secondly, we're not talented enough to do that concept to begin with. We're not like Brazil, arguably the most talented and skilled players like in the world when it comes to like joga bonita. When it comes to like that flashy stuff like juggling and volleys, like the beautiful game. They don't even do that because it's fucking dumb. But here we are, the United States men's.
In what aspect? Like, how did they incorporate that into play? Like, explain to me.
So in the
understand.
US, there's a licensing process, which is fucking. Like licensing processes are good because it helps make things like universal. Like in Germany, like the German national team. I'm pretty sure has licenses and a program that helps develop the players for the style of play that they want to play at the adult national level. And that's how they develop these technical fucking machines where you don't even have to be that skilled. They're just so technical with their game that they're able to be successful. So each country has, those licenses, or maybe some don't, maybe some do. I don't know every country. But the US has theirs, the United States men's national team. they have their licensing procedures, like D license, C license, B license, and you need these certain licenses to coach at certain levels if you're going to work for the United States national team. And that's how they implement that youth development. It's like, okay, this is what we want to focus on for our kids starting from like 6 to 10. That way, in 10 years, this is the style of play that we can all be universal about. And it's like a national standard. And right now, that national standard is one touch and volleys. And it drives me up the fucking wall because I'm sitting there in this course, and I'm like, that's not a style of play. Like that's not a like a style of play would be like tiki taka, or counter attacking football, like kind of how Leicester City does, where they live and die off of the fucking counter. Like that's a style of play. Juggling in one touch is not a style of play. I don't understand it, and it drives me up the fuck. I'm shaking with anger right now talking about it.
I think they just, it's ironic considering Brazil being so close and stuff, and you'd think they'd have more influence in North America with that sort of stuff. You think with, learning from your neighbors and stuff like that. I don't know. Even park the bus is a better logic
Park
than
the
that,
bus is
isn't it?
like that is an actual style of play, right? What we're trying to
Exactly.
implement is like concepts within a style of play. They're like subcategories. It doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna. I'm working myself up. I could talk for hours about what's
It's
wrong
okay.
with the American, with soccer in America. I could talk for hours, but I'm not going to.
I think it's just one of the reasons for that, in my opinion, is because it's just not a sport that has been focused on like baseball and the NFL and stuff like that, and even basketball, which is surprising to me because from our point of view in Europe, all these sports combined together have nothing on actual football. Like emotion wise and like passion wise and like pace of the game and like everything, like, and even down to the small things from it, like even like the community, even every single day we have some new weird shit and drama going on in this fucking stupid football community. And it's like, and not just that, but like think about the World Cup, think about the Euros, Champions League every year. It's like these things, they just, like, when I know for a fact that you have the same reaction like inside your chest about it just when you think it. You have this like insane like excitement about it just thinking about it. And it's like when you think about the World Cup, you think when you were a kid and just growing up with it is something like I am confident enough to say that no other event from your sports in the States can actually bring on. Maybe something to do with the NFL, maybe, and baseball. Like you had some sentimental stuff and like big events there as well, but in my eyes it couldn't compare halfway through what actual European football or soccer
sports
is.
Yeah.
Sports ball.
I'm sorry. We'll stop talking. Maybe we'll do.
No, go ahead. Please, by all means, continue. I'm just making fun of y'all.
Maybe we'll do a whole episode talking about. I want to get on. I know
sports is just a distraction from the government to distract you from dry firing and lifting weights.
No, sports is the best thing in the world. I love it.
Yes.
I'm telling you, Nathan, it is the one time in my life. It is the only time in my life where I completely ignore my values and like I said, Taoism and pacifism. I completely ignore it. I'm a different person, and I love it.
He shows his horns.
I love it.
Give them bread and circuses, and they will never revolt.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Relax, George Orwell. Oh my goodness. No, I feel the same way. We can have a little pundit gathering.
I'm thinking I would love for you to join. I know a couple folks who play currently over in Europe. I really want to, because I have a completely, it's like an alter ego, honestly. Like I do podcasts, I coach at a competitive level, and I do stuff outside of, the gun tactical industry that involves sports. And I have a very important career choice to make in the coming weeks. If I'm going to pursue the soccer, or if I'm going to focus more on kind of the gun tactical community and just be content with coaching like a high school team or like a local competitive club and just be content with doing that. I don't know. That's something that I got to figure out. But I will say one thing that I have legit concern about is if I take the job that I have to coach and that becomes like a full-time thing for me, there's a little small part of me that's like, you're going to become that arrogant dickhead that you were 6 years ago, like in all aspects of my life again. So that is a legitimate concern that I have, but I don't think it'll happen. One, because my wife will hold me accountable. And two, I think I'll hold myself accountable, but it is something that it's a concern that I have if I choose to go that direction in my life.
It's good that you're aware of it, at least. Self-awareness is a good step towards, avoiding that to happen.
It's a part of my life that I'm able to direct and channel this intense amount of energy and passion towards. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I have some great opportunities in both kind of industries. We'll see. We'll definitely see, because I think I have to, in order to take the next step in both of them, I have to fully commit to one or the other. So we'll see. We shall see. But enough about me. Ana, it's been absolutely great talking with you as always.
Of course.
This is just
Likewise.
kind of like an extension of what we normally talk about anyways, just outside of the podcast. So
Yep.
No, it's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about your experiences in Bulgaria, and maybe getting a little personal when it comes to like your family and what's going on in that part of the world. I think it's incredibly important. Please tell people where they can find you, how they can support you, what you got going on.
Well, same old place at Victim Henry on Instagram, and I have a card in my description. You can find anything else related to that there. And if you're interested in anything else, just DM me, and if you're lucky, I will see the message and I will feel social that day and I will answer you. That's pretty much
Well, we
it.
appreciate you coming on. Mom advice. Give everybody some advice.
Don't be dickheads like Mitch.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm going to counter that. Be a dickhead if you're in sports. And if you think you're a better coach than me, I look forward to the day where I am shit-talking you while you're down 17-2 across the pitch, because you will lose.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Mitch is wonderful. I'm just teasing. Mom advice: love each other and appreciate the people in your life, because you don't know how long you have left with them. That's all I'm gonna say.
Very wholesome. Very wholesome. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, AWS, for sponsoring. You guys are great. If you're listening to this, rate us on whatever listening platform you listen to, so we can beat the Fat People podcasts, and we can continue to beat politicians like Hillary Clinton.
It's not a very tall bar, admittedly.
I mean, we're already 5 times the size of Hillary Clinton's podcast, which is hilarious.
And Michelle Obama
and we're
was
beating
it.
Michelle Obama's too.
Dude, you're just accelerating the drone strike that is inevitably going to turn us into just like fucking strawberry jam.
Okay, bye. Oh, say your thing.
I lost it. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
What?